Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer, and right over there is John, our resident millennial. And then right down there, I believe you folks might recognize Mr. Behavior. Mr. Behavior, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fantastic. What is going on, guys? Excited to be here.
Ooh,
So are
fantastic.
we.
Now it's not.
Fantastic.
Now is that somewhere near John's fan fucking tastic?
It's slightly to the left of fan fucking tastic. I think Fantastic Tastic will be all the way,
Right.
but I'm almost there. I'm getting there.
Maybe by the end of the
The
show.
fucking comes later. Yeah.
After dinner and drinks, got
Right,
it. I like
exactly.
that.
Right.
That's a nice approach. So you're in a really good mood. I mean,
I'm in a fantastic mood.
well, why don't you go ahead? Tell us
All right,
why
I'll-
you're in a great mood. Go
I'll
give us a
tell you.
little insight.
I'll tell you. So for those of you who don't know, I have my own podcast, the Antioche Podcast on YouTube. If you want to check it out. So there's my little plug. But just so our podcast, my podcast partner, his name's Silos. He's a Street Fighter player. So the premise of my podcast is I'm a part of this community called the FGC, which is the fighting game community. For those of you who don't know. And I'm like tertiary involved. I used to go to a lot more events when I lived in California. I don't as much anymore, but I still play the games. And I have a friend who's a lot more involved in the Street Fighter community in particular, and we're both kind of sick and tired of the wokeness of like the leftism that's infiltrated the FGC, and so we started this podcast. And today we crossed 100 subs. And we also got discovered by woke FGC. So our Twitter mentions have been blowing up. People hate us. It's fantastic.
Great reviews, for sure.
Yes.
If I'm reading you correctly, like you've run into the Karen pod
Yes.
of the
Yes,
gaming
exactly.
community,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
The
Well,
Karen.
yes, exactly. We've run into. Well, I mean, with gamers in particular, there's a lot of group think that goes on in those circles, and so we've run up against the folks that are trying to protect the group think. We're kind of shattering that whole thing by saying, hey, maybe you guys don't all have to think this way, and not all of us do and stuff. So we're becoming a threat, I guess, is the best way to describe it. And I don't have any delusions about anything. Like I'm not like a top player or anything like that. I've never been. I just like the games, and it wasn't really about anything political for me. But these people started making it political, and so we kind of had to step in. We kind of felt like we had to start this podcast, and I think right now what we're seeing is proof of that.
Now, I'm old school, so pre online gaming, right? But I'm having trouble understanding. I mean, why is any of that relevant in the sphere of video games, right? Like, why is it because there's so much conversation going on while gaming, or
Well, so it's a matter of this whole notion of inclusivity, right? And there's a lot of gender politics that goes into games now, and race politics that are in games now.
really?
And so this is
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
especially with the fighting game community. We just our last episode that we just recorded that comes out, I think it's the 14th. We watched this documentary on Vice where they talked about the fighting game community, and the first half of it is fantastic. They go into like the history of it. They talk about some of the like classic players. They like go into like what makes a fighting game different than other forms of video games and what makes the community different, and it's great. And then about halfway through, it switches over to like this socio-political agenda where now it's about whether or not black women can compete in fighting games and femmes and non-fight and all this kind of stuff. And we're like, wait a second, like, first of all, we have top players that are black females. We have top players that are all types of people. The fighting game community has never cared about any of that, but what happens now is that these people infuse these like real world like stories of oppression or some crap into trying to push a narrative and an agenda through these games in this community that doesn't actually belong there at all. It has nothing to do with fighting games.
Right. See, because I'm trying to wrap my, because I thought the whole point to
Right.
on being online gaming was nobody knew who you were. Like, why does it matter
here's the thing.
what your race is or if you're
Here's
female?
the thing with the fighting game community, it's not online. So this is one of the main things that's about the fighting game community is
Okay.
that a lot of our events are in person.
Okay.
And so because of the fact that like it's really just like sitting next to a guy, one-on-one, somebody wins, somebody loses, that kind of thing. And that's what actually makes one of the things that makes the FGC special is the fact that a lot of the events are still held in person. Because of the nature of like the visceral nature of like, it's literally like fighting someone, right? And
Right.
so that's what makes it special. And so a lot of people seem to think that a lack of representation of a certain type of person means that there's some sort of it's indicative of some sort of a discrimination, when in reality a lot of it is just maybe those people aren't interested in doing these things. That not only that, the fighting game community is one of the most incredibly diverse communities of video games ever. Every time I went to an event in California, black people, Asian people, white people, men, women, whatever, trans, whatever, all types of people. And
Right.
nobody cares because all that you're supposed to care about is whether or not that person is capable at playing the game or if
Right.
you lost to them. That's it.
Right. That's my thing. It's like if somebody's capable of doing it,
Right.
they're going to be there and they can prove their worth, especially if it's a competition. It's like any other
Right.
fucking sport.
Right, exactly.
It's about the
Right,
skill
exactly.
level that puts you there. Now, if someone is
Exactly.
being excluded and they have the skill set to be there and they're being excluded, discriminated against specifically by whatever, that I could understand. But if it's just like,
So,
why aren't there
so
more?
here's a question then. Yeah, so here's a question then, because I guarantee they are. I'm gonna guess, right? Do they mention like, oh, people are being excluded? Black people are being excluded for X reason, or trans people are being excluded for X reason. What are some of the reasons that they give? Because I'll bet you that they're not, that they're very flimsy.
Well,
They're
so it's not
extremely
even
flimsy.
about it being exclusionary, because you can't make that argument about the FGC. It's impossible.
Right,
Like
that's
if
what
you
I
go
was
to
thinking,
one
yeah.
if you go to one event, you will see all types of people everywhere.
Right.
And it's not a matter of there being an issue there. The exclusion happens on the level of, are you playing, are you interested in these things or are you not? And that is a level of exclusion. There's also exclusion within like certain sects, like casuals versus pros, right? We had a whole conversation about how this one prominent member of the FGC, she tweeted out that she doesn't understand why pros don't want to play games with casuals. And our entire argument is that, look, casuals and pros have completely different goals. I don't think that somebody like a Punk or a Daigo, and I'm saying names, I know you guys don't know who these people are, but these guys are top players, right? Cuddlecore, any of those top, and that was a woman, the last one that I mentioned, by the way, a black woman. Any of these players, they don't owe me a fight in any game because I'm not good enough to play with them, and I know that. And
Right.
they have completely different goals. My goal is to come, have some fun, maybe drown in a pool, maybe maybe just meet some cool people, play some casual games, and watch some cool matches and learn some stuff. That's my goal. A pro's goal is to win the tournament, and they're not going to spend time playing with me when I can't even keep up with them on that level. That makes no sense.
Right. It's a waste of both of your times.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
that's how I used to be back in the arcade days. There's
Right,
there's some kick-ass guy on the Mortal Kombat machine.
Right.
I'm not stepping up. I would rather
exactly.
play somebody that,
Right.
it's like, I might have a chance
similar
against.
level.
Right? Why
Right.
waste my
Of course.
quarters?
Yeah.
Right?
Right. And so like, I don't understand why it's not even about like the fact that they have these reasons. It's really just about the fact that what we're doing is we're calling out issues with the community at large, where they think that there's a problem that doesn't actually exist. And so what we're basically trying to say is, look, none of these things are actually happening. Like, if there was a problem within the FGC within like discrimination of a certain race, for example, you wouldn't, like a black people, which is what they tried to say in this Vice documentary, you wouldn't see Cuddlecore, who's one of the best Tekken players out there, at the top of her game. You wouldn't see that. That wouldn't exist. She wouldn't be able to do what she was doing. And so our whole argument is like, hey, you guys, you're not correct about what your assessment. If somebody's an asshole to you and somebody's harassing you, that's a completely different thing. And like, we understand that there are going to be dickheads, you know, that exist within any community, right? As soon as a community gets large enough, you have the propensity to have people that are going to be offended and be offensive. That's just the nature of the game, you know. And no one's saying that any of those things are okay, but we have to understand that there's a difference between somebody just being a dick and there being a systemic issue.
Well,
know?
now that is, you know, is the next question I have is, you know, is it possible that this idea of systemic racism in everything, right, has been preached for so long that now, right, you have to call it out in everything if you're on that far left,
right? Exactly.
Just because you've been taught it exists in everything,
right?
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
it's like Nita Sarkeesian used to say, right? Everything's racist, everything's
Right.
sexist, and you have to
Right.
call it all out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what it is. They're seeing it through this prism of everything's racist and sexist. And look, man, I'm not going to say that racism, I would never claim that racism doesn't exist. My thing is, why do you fucking care so much?
Well,
Right.
here,
Like-
I've termed it. I've started terming it as two different things. There's racism, which I equate to tribalism. We all have that.
Mhm.
But this,
Yeah,
in the
for
present day, this argument, this conversation is about competitive racism.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Who needs to be better than the other?
Right, exactly.
It's a competitive racism, and whenever
Yeah.
your actions are based off of which race is the better race,
Right,
that's racist. That's the racism you're looking for,
Right, exactly.
and you're propagating it and perpetuating it
Right. Exactly.
because
it's
you can't stop it.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's like, if we would just stop talking about this in that way, like if you would just, if somebody was a dick to you, I said this on the last episode. If somebody's a dick to you and you remove the fact that they may be, oops, hold on, my video went away. If you remove the fact that they may be doing that because you're a certain race, then what you're left with is somebody just being a dick,
Right.
and
Right.
and then you can move on and like, if you just think about it that way, instead of focusing so much on why they were being a dick, and just be like, okay, you're being a dick, peace, see you later, you know, then what do we have? We don't have an issue anymore.
Exactly.
You know, it's just so insane. It's just so
Well-
ridiculous. It's like people want to keep these things alive in order for them to like have something to talk about or something. I don't know.
Here's
It's a way to gain power over others by using it as a cudgel.
Well, here, I think people are in the present day, the younger generations, for some reason, and I really think this falls a lot on the younger generation because they are reaping what was sown for years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now the fruit has come to bear, as it were. But
Yeah,
it's they can't wrap their head around the idea that when, for instance, I look at you, Mr. Behavior, and no offense, but you're different than me. You're different than me. You have a different color. You have different facial features. You have different things. You're different than me, and that makes me racist now.
Just acknowledging
Just saying that.
Right?
Yeah.
And if I say
Yeah.
if I think that in my head, oh my God, I'm racist because I see them as different. When in fact it's just they're different than you.
And that's totally okay.
And the funny thing is,
Right.
there's actually
Like,
probably equally as many differences between Robert and I as there are between you and
right,
Robert.
exactly.
Like, there's-
But see,
you know.
we're all different, and that, like, the thing is, it's like we're focusing on the fact that some people don't like that.
right.
But now,
Right.
that is kind of the right's fault because we were calling people snowflakes for so fucking long,
Yeah,
and
that's
they're
true.
like, oh, I'm not. I can't be different. I have to be like everybody.
Yeah, fair
okay.
enough. Fair enough.
Kind of.
Think
Yeah,
about
yeah.
think about what they were taught there too. You know, it's like, oh, being a snowflake, being individual is not good now.
Yeah.
Okay,
right,
so
that's
now
true. That's true.
now we all
I
have
gotta be
to-
a collectivist.
we have to be blind to everything, right? And that
That's an
collective
interesting point,
mindset.
Yeah.
But it is becoming so threateningly pervasive is the problem, and much like the big issue that's gone on this week. I mean, how much have you heard about Dr. Seuss in the last week versus over the last 20 years, right?
Yeah. Right, they removed some of his books from, what is it, Reading for America or something like that.
Right.
Because he's racist.
Amazon as well.
Amazon did it too, right? And like they're not even allowing people to like resell them or something.
Right. Those
eBay will. eBay will let you, guarantee it.
Those 6 books for now are being canceled.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. This is book burning right now. This is
right.
Book burning.
Oh my God! I can't believe
Unbelievable.
In just FYI, in our tags for tonight, I did put Fahrenheit 451 because I want to talk about that.
Right.
So this is driving me crazy because there are different angles to this that have to be looked at, because when you go and you look at what they're talking about, like the imagery, I'm like, okay, there's a multifaceted approach here, right?
Yeah.
Because
right.
I'll share something with you. Let me see if I got this up on the screen. Now, this is an image that I'll share with you guys, and that's the button I got to press. Let me make sure I press the right buttons, and I'll pop this up for everybody else to see out there as well. So this is an image from. Here we go. There, now you guys can see it.
I can see it.
So this is an image from one of the. If
this Dr. Seuss.
Right. This is.
About, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things. Yeah.
Okay. Now let's think about this first, though. All right. At the time he's writing these books, we're talking the 1950s.
Yeah.
Okay. So this imagery of the African man. This is an image from Africa. This is not some local.
African, though?
Right. That's the intent, right?
Aren't they supposed to be like fake?
Dude, the black version of Who's is what they are.
Right,
but
right.
but they
made up name that easily rhymes with other words.
Yeah, right, exactly, right.
But they look too ape-like.
Okay.
Right, so that's part of the problem.
So can't they just be monkeys or something?
They might be. And that's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? Like,
so what was monkeys? Well, I don't know. Here are let me see. Are you seeing the Asian here?
Yes.
Okay, this again was a cringeworthy one. That
Asians never eat with chopsticks, right?
You notice how squinty the eyes are. Although I'm like, no, he's really happy, and when you're really happy, your eyes close sometimes, right? Yes. That's joy. That's happy.
Eyes, yeah.
He's very happy, right? But no, he's got squinty eyes, and the chopsticks. This is, but again, 1950s. Go into Chinatown.
Yeah, right.
Right. This is what you would see. The Asian man dressing as. You go to China in sampans. They're wearing the sampans, the clogs. Everybody eats with. Guess what? Back then, everybody in China was eating with chopsticks. It's kind of their thing.
I mean, it doesn't. None of that even matters, right? Because it's like, if you look at this,
right,
and your first thought is that's racist, maybe you're racist.
Right. There it is.
Like, you know what I mean? Like.
And all of his.
That's the problem with the left. A lot of times they'll be like, "Yes, I know I'm racist, and I'm working through it, and I'm trying to stop other people from being racist." So they'll even admit that they're racist, and move on as if that's nothing.
So this is another one that's.
Yeah, you see the typical Asian guys here walking.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah. Are they supposed to be Asian?
Yeah.
They got like the Fu Manchu kind of deal going on.
I guess.
As much as I can
see him there. Yeah.
But see, here's the thing about this too: is if you erase this stuff from history, then how do you know that it's not just going to come back around once everybody who erased it is dead?
Well, right, but
you know what I mean, like.
Well, I think what they're intending to do is what Orwell did in 1984 when he was saying, if you remove any kind of language or something, then you remove the idea entirely because if you can't, there's no language for it, you can't describe it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm thinking that maybe that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, but I don't think that's going to work with this.
No,
I mean, they've been trying to control narrative for a while, right? That's why you get, all your istophobes and all that kind of stuff. If you question something, you're an istophobe. right? So yes, I agree with that. That's the thing, because it's what they do is they shut down your ability to speak on a subject by calling you a thing, and then they try to remove the idea. But what these people don't understand is these things are not going to make the ideas go away.
No.
What they're going to do is they're going to force them underground where you can't push back against them, which
They
means that they're
separate
going to
and fester.
swell.
Well,
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
here I would posit this. The simple idea that these things are being brought up. Nobody was noticing. It wasn't bothering.
Yeah.
It wasn't a thing. This is creating a thing out of it.
Exactly.
Much like you said, right? This is because I regularly read Dr. Seuss books to my children.
Mm-hmm.
Read them and loved them.
Yeah, I grew up
right.
Them, yeah,
and because he's a brilliant man.
Yeah, exactly.
And
iambic pentameter, man. Don't you guys appreciate literature?
right.
Prose? Like, what is going on?
The things that his books will teach a child, a love of reading, and the imaginativeness.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was a caricature artist. He did like political cartoons and newspapers
Yeah, I remember
satirical stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he did. I mean, look at the white people he drew. He did many stereotypical white and imaginative things with every character. Every animal. Is Peter going to get involved? Just, I don't know. Because he made some funky looking zebras, and I'm like, I'm sure the zebra community is like, oh my God. Right? Oh my God. Right?
But yeah, you have to make an absolutely great point. It's like the value that children got, the value that I got out of those books as a child is immense. And like, you're going to take that away from kids because you're mad about something that, like,
the kid didn't notice.
Basically infusing, right? Exactly. Now you're going to show the kid this. I was talking to my lady about this actually earlier. I think yesterday or something. It's like, kids don't think like this. Adults teach them to think like this. And that's why it's weird, because I never looked at any of those. I saw all those images as a kid, and my parents didn't once say that's racist, so I never saw it as such. Yeah. I just saw it as a character.
Right.
And that's unbelievable.
And that is what is so insane to me about it is with this cancel culture is how they're dredging up the past. Like, bring it, yes, those were perfectly acceptable images at the time that they were drawn, because you were seeing that kind of thing. Television, movies. I mean, how many movies were made back then that had men in blackface and, playing as Africans in the jungle and stuff, right? I mean, because this was how things were done.
Yeah.
But to bring it to the future and say, oh, well, of course, it was meant to be terribly offensive. No, it's not. Well, it is what it is. And nobody's noticing. The kids aren't jumping up and going, I think I'm going to be a racist now.
Right.
Mom, right?
Well, that's what Disney's doing, the same thing. Warner Brothers is doing the same thing, where they're like putting in front of their cartoons, oh, these are like bad images. They did that to the Muppets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. They did that we saw that on Aladdin. And what you know what the problem with it for me was that they said, this is going to contain stereotypical racial, imagery, this, that, and the other. And it says, it was not okay then. It was wrong then, and it's wrong now. Yeah. However, we're going to use it as a teaching moment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, pal. Two wrongs don't make a right.
Don't make a right. Exactly.
If it's not wrong now, if it's wrong now,
then why are you showing it?
Show it.
Yeah. Right. But the reason is because it's not, and they know that, and so they're just trying to put this like really weird scene on it. Look, Disney is falling off. I actually was talking to my girl about this too. Was the new Aladdin, right? They've gone so far off the deep end where now they're trying to like infuse like all of these real world socio-political nonsense into their characters that already sort of had that to begin with. So they're doing this with like the new Aladdin with Jasmine, right? Her motivation is she wants to be the Sultan because feminism, right?
Right.
Never mind the fact that Jasmine was already a very feminist character to begin with. She wanted to just be able to choose who she wanted to marry. That was the whole point of her character, was that she was dealing with this oppressive system that she wanted to get out of, and she successfully did, without making her motivation wanting to have power. What they did was they hollowed that character out and made her into some empty husk of what she was before, just so that they could prove a point, without even realizing what the whole point of the character was in the beginning. They did this recently also with Space Jam. I don't know if you saw this, but Space Jam 2 is coming out with LeBron James. And what they're doing with Lola Bunny, they redesigned the character to make her flat-chested and like shorter and like less sexy, right? Never mind the fact that the whole point of the character was that she was a sexy character that could dunk on Bugs Bunny. And they totally subverted expectations. The girl came into the gym. They were all the guys were like, whatever, doll. You know what I mean? And then she dunks on all of them and tells her not to call her doll. The entire point of the character was that.
Right. A strong, independent woman.
Right. That, without being unattractive. She was still sexy, but she also kicked ass at her sport. That was the entire point of the character. These people don't even see that the messages they're trying to portray are already in these characters.
Right.
They're just ruining them by pushing them all the way further to the other side. It's insane.
They've got to reassert the narrative. They've got to reassert the narrative with the amended nuances.
But what they end up doing is they come back to the other side.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, like now you're so far left, you're right, because now you're saying that women who can dunk on basketball can't have big tits and can't be sexy.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which is ludicrous. You know what I mean? Like any rational thinking person would just be like, that's dumb. I mean, even me as a kid watching Space Jam, I understood the point of Lola Bunny. As a kid, I got it. You know what I mean? It was like, you see the character, she's hot, okay, then she dunks on him, oh, okay, girls can play basketball. That's literally the whole point.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, come on, dude. Like,
well, it's there's so many ways where it's like the people that sit, all the women that sit and holler about the sexism in advertising. And sexualizing women and all of this, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but tell you're going out to a nice party in an hour. What are you going to walk out the door looking like? What are you selling when you walk out the door?
Let's be real.
I mean,
like the sexism in commercials as well. When it comes to the guy being an idiot, usually some fat idiot.
Well, that's
can't do anything. It needs whatever product, to sell.
The thing about that is that most advertisements are geared towards women anyway, because women consume more than men in general, and so that whole narrative is completely ridiculous, because most advertisements are geared towards what a woman will allow, quote unquote, their men to purchase, purchase for them.
But if you take a look at our society as a whole, right? Think about it this way. Okay, you're a kid, right? What did you grow up learning? Who ran the world? Who ran the house? Who was in charge in your house? Mom was in charge, right?
Mom, yeah.
And for all you could tell, based off what all the other kids were saying, moms ruled the world. Women were in charge, right? And what did husbands say when? Well, it depends on what the little lady says. It depends on the little lady. I'm waiting on the little lady. I'm doing this.
Right.
Women have been in control. Right. And then now it's like they're trying to replace the patriarchy with a matriarchy by making women, representing women as the exact duality of their male counterparts, just as evil and despicable and disgusting and slutty and whorish and everything.
Right.
So you were already in charge.
Right. Well, women, I mean, that's the thing too, is a lot of guys don't even realize this when they talk about this stuff. Is like men, literally, everything men have done since the beginning of time has been for women. They've always been in charge of everything. But what they haven't been in the power positions, right? They've been in the support positions, quote unquote, to the world, right? So they put the men in the front as the CEO or whatever. But at the end of the day, that CEO built that business for his wife.
Yeah.
That CEO built that house for his wife.
Right.
That CEO bought that extra television, that extra card, whatever, for his wife.
Right.
Yep.
Like,
She's the reason you only get 70
Right.
cents on the dollar.
Exactly. Right. And it's so ridiculous to me that people don't actually understand that men do everything for women. Men, the reason why any guy went out and decided to take some job at the top of a skyscraper where he could possibly fall off and break his freaking head and die is because of some chick, because he wanted to get laid by some chick.
Right.
That's
100%.
just the truth. And it's so crazy to me that people don't see that or don't understand that, like, the real power comes from that. Like,
what, here's a simple question that should wake them up to it. You would think it's like, okay, how many men go into a relationship planning to change their woman?
None.
How many women go into relationships with the expectation of changing their man?
Of them.
Every single one. That's the what is it? The quote is: men go into relationships thinking women won't change. Women go into relationships thinking men will change, and both parties are sorely disappointed.
Right.
But in a lot of ways they are able to make that happen, especially if children come along, because then they take an even higher seat of authority in the house, right? And so dad does bend more. The male will bend, and I'm telling you, the typical married man. I mean, it's long-standing joke about men and women. The man was the ball and chain. Oh my God, God! And it's like you're telling me you've been married for 30 years. And you're miserable as hell.
Yeah.
That's some good stuff you getting then.
Yeah. Right. Well, so that's the thing too. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's like if you have the right person or the right woman, a man will change and upgrade his priorities for that woman. Look, I moved up here with my girlfriend, and we were renting a little spot like a couple miles down the road, and I bought a house a couple of months later. If I had moved up here by myself, I would still be renting that place. I guarantee you.
Right.
The reason why I did that was because I had somebody else that I had to take care of and look out for. And it makes more sense for me to secure us some equity, right? And get me in that position. If I was here by myself, I would be perfectly fine renting. Because why? I'm just working a bullshit job. I don't care. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, I have something else that I have to worry about, and help her, have a good space and all that kind of stuff. And I wouldn't have done that if I was here by myself. But like, a woman, the right woman comes along, a guy is going to change his priorities for her.
Absolutely,
it happens every fucking time. It's like, it's so ridiculous that these people don't even see that the inherent power of the female. One person, I can't remember what I was reading. It might have been like Rollo Tomasi or something like that. But this one guy, he was talking about how women are born with inherent value and men are not. Men have to accrue value. And that's what people don't really get is like women, they're born with the value because they can create life, right? Mm-hmm. The femininity, the support, all that kind of stuff, these things that men need, right? In order to perpetuate the species. And then as they age, it goes like this. Whereas men start down here, and as they age, hopefully, if they do it correctly, which a lot of men aren't nowadays because they've been told all types of bullshit, but it should go up here, and you guys should be able to meet in the middle. That's the whole point. Yeah. But a lot of men don't understand this anymore, and a lot of women don't understand this anymore, and they push the exact opposite narrative,
And I think it's
making people miserable.
I think it's because they judge themselves based on the male that's doing the best, and then says, "Well, I'm not doing that well, so there must be something wrong with him."
Right. Yeah.
That's making me not be that well or be doing that well. So I think that's a lot of it. A lot of it.
That's a good point.
Just simply looking at people who are higher up on that totem pole than you, rather than looking at the males who are not.
I mean, like it's looking at other males, right? Like I don't give a crap. There's plenty of guys that are doing better than me.
Right.
I'm doing just fine. I was able to purchase this today. This was $124 for one video game. I was able to purchase that.
Yeah.
I'm doing fine. I don't care what other people are doing. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's a lot of it. I think that the fact that a lot of guys are comparing themselves to other men is a huge problem too. Because at the end of the day, there's so many things that I've been doing all my time. I just show you, I purchased this video game, but I've been like learning a bunch of other skills, and like I just like cracked a code on a program that I was building, and it was amazing. It felt really good. I'm focusing on developing me. I don't give a shit what other people are doing.
Well, but see, the problem, sir, is that you specifically should care that other black people are not able to go out and buy that video game for $124, sir. And you should be outraged by that for all those people.
Right. Because I have to be responsible for all those people. Yes.
Right.
That's the issue, is that I don't care.
Sir, are you saying you don't want your fair share of reparations?
Oh man. You know what I was thinking about doing? Copyright this. Don't steal this, you fuckers. I want to create a Bitcoin that's reparation coin.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's awesome.
That's a great idea. Actually, that's a fantastic idea.
Copyrighted.
It's gonna do it. Somebody already made it now. Somebody made it.
Yeah.
Send it live.
Yeah,
but
how do you spell that
reparations
again?
Coin. Yeah, how do you spell that? Yeah, exactly. That's actually my next project.
Just look up REP. It'll be there. All caps. But I mean, sir, but you stand to gain if you can prove lineage, you stand to gain around $235,000.
$235,000.
Between $235,000 and $250,000.
Most of my house off
if your ancestry proves proper.
I mean, I already know for a fact that I descend from slaves. I know that for a fact.
Well, there you go. And if you invest wisely in 23andMe and Ancestry.com in their in the stock market, when that happens, you're set.
True. That's a good point. Yeah. I should probably start buying some of that. Wait, so how does that work if like you have immigrant lineage too? Because my mom was an immigrant.
No,
my dad was American.
Well, no, then there'll be a breakdown.
You only get half the reparations.
I mean,
right. You get half.
I promise you.
Also,
I know. Well, I know I'm a descendant of slaves, but also slave owners because my great grandmother, I believe, was white lady.
Oh, then they cancel out.
So do I have to pay myself? Like, I don't know how that works. I remember my dad told me that once. I was like, I went to go. My grandfather died a couple years ago. I went to his funeral, and my I met a bunch of cousins I didn't know I had, all that kind of crap. And my dad's, he's telling me that the first time he met like his great grandmother, my great grandmother, he was very confused. I said, why? And he's like, because she was a white lady. She looked like, we're in front of my uncle's house. He has a white house. She looked like this house. Nice. It was like, and I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I met her. I was like, are you sure you're related? Like, what?
maybe she was just really ashy.
I know, right?
Is that okay to say?
I should have said that to my dad.
Oh man.
Is that okay for me to say, or should I feel some? Do I need to dose some guilt?
Yeah, I mean now you got to pay some reparations. That goes into the reparations.
Now, don't quote me on this, but I believe that there is a top tier jackpot slot for a few people on the reparations bill.
Really?
If you can prove one thing, that you are a direct descendant of Thomas Jefferson / slave.
Get out of here, really?
You would think about it.
Is that for real?
No. No, dude,
that would be crazy.
Right? But imagine it's there. You know it'll be there, and somebody will work that in. They'll be like, what if I can prove I'm Thomas Jefferson's ancestor?
Right. Wait, so they're really trying to do the reparations.
They've got a bill. They've got paperwork. They've got shit going in Washington
they're calling
right
it
now.
Transitional justice.
Right.
So while they have the bill, I don't think that they're planning on putting it through.
It's
a virtue signal, if anything.
It's just saying
it's not going anywhere.
I'm sorry, Kamala Harris. I can guarantee you right now that reparations is a word in her vocabulary.
Kamala Harris wasn't black until she started running for president.
I don't care.
She was Indian before that.
Yeah, right.
Or Caribbean or Jamaican.
She's got to stand up for her partial peeps too. You know, she got to stand up for her partial peeps.
No, so wait, so they're calling it transitional justice. Look, here's the thing about reparations that doesn't make sense. Like I just said, my great grandmother was a white lady. So now what? Do I pay myself? Like, dude, we're so mixed up by now that, like, even back then we were mixed up, dude. Let's be fucking honest.
Right.
Yeah.
That, like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I would just like to just move on and stop talking about slavery, to be completely honest with you. Like, other than the fact that it happened in the United States and it's part of our history, I don't really want to harp on it. It's like, what do we gain?
Then we have to pretend. Then we also have to pretend that it's unique to our history.
Right, exactly. Like,
That's
the
worst
United
part.
States is the only one who's ever done it. Right.
Right.
What's unique is that we ended it.
Right.
Well,
It's like,
right.
that's
You know?
what's unique. No one else has.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, come on,
no one else
man.
has done it.
Let's be honest.
But now,
Like,
now, you know, it's I don't even want to say it's funny, but it's one of those things like all I'm seeing now are I keep seeing commercials that are just talking about black strength and how powerful black people are, and honestly how much better than other racist black people are. That needs to be recognized, right?
Yeah.
But
God.
Now,
like back in, I think it was like back in February, wasn't it? Like on this day, like the black people superpower activate.
Was it February? No, it was either
February?
February 21st or January 21st. One
of those. Yeah.
No, it was December 21st.
Was it December?
We were supposed to get our
Something like
superpowers.
Yeah.
And no one's called that out.
Right. There's too many other things. Too many other
you
things.
didn't get superpowers in.
I've always had superpowers. But,
okay. Yeah.
I didn't really.
It got bumped down.
Notice a difference?
Yeah, I didn't notice any difference at all. Yeah.
Man.
I'm what no, seriously though, I'm what the hippies call a light worker. You ever heard of that? It's somebody who apparently I shine light on darkness or something. I don't know, some hippie tricks. Many hippie chicks in my life have told me that. Back when I was still dating white girls.
Huh. Yeah, they'll do it to you. They'll do that to you.
Well, let me. Are either one of you familiar with the Pixar A Bug's Life?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
with the ants, right?
Yeah.
So, in thinking about the numbers back then during slavery, right? The numbers game, okay? And if they had seen ants then, would slavery have lasted as long? Because based off the numbers, I mean, A Bug's Life. Excuse me, A Bug's Life.
Oh yeah, they came out around the same time.
No. A Bug's Life was about ants.
One was DreamWorks.
A Bug's Life was about ants, is why I said ants.
Yeah.
But if they had seen A Bug's Life during the days of slavery, would slavery have lasted as long?
Wait, I forget what the plot of A Bug's Life was.
When the ants finally realized that they outnumbered the grasshoppers 100 to 1.
Right. Yeah.
100 to 1.
Well, you're making that same argument that Kanye West was making,
Right.
a couple of years ago. Was this was a choice, for us to just stay, not to become slaves, but to stay slaves, was his entire argument. And for some reason, people didn't get it. I get that, yes, they did a bunch of really weird psychological things to people and all that kind of stuff. I totally understand, but it's a question worth asking.
Oh, your mic's muted.
Yeah, your mic.
Your mic muted.
Oh, sorry.
Asking what?
I'm a little excited. Yeah.
They're trying to mute it. They're trying to mute me.
Cancel
Censor
you.
you.
No, it's we have examples of slaves that were killed for trying to uprise and all that kind of stuff. But it's even at the same time now, right? What we're doing with my podcast, what we're doing with the FGC, right? Where there's not enough people speaking up about these things, although we know that there are people that should be speaking up. So what it really takes is for one person to stand up, two people to stand up, three people to stand up. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to presume that I knew the situation, outright, where people were going to be able to band together or whatever. I'm sure that there was methods employed to make sure that didn't happen. But it's a question, right? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that there might have been a lot more. I mean, there's access to weapons that a lot of slaves didn't have, presumably, right? Guns and things like that. If you try to run, you get shot, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But that's regardless, because people forget that there weren't just first of all, there were black slave owners. Also, there were slaves that weren't black.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if we're talking about it from that perspective, just in general, we're talking about everybody. Maybe all the slaves could have gotten together and had an uprising, but was that likely? not really.
Well,
You know?
But
I'm
yeah,
gonna
it's why prisons don't need, as many prison guards as there are prisoners. Right?
Right,
It's the
exactly,
same
right.
same kind of deal.
Right, exactly, right,
They're not
exactly.
well,
willing to,
Right.
put themselves at risk
Right.
just for the, possibility of escape.
well,
Right, exactly.
let me suggest something here. And what I would ask you to do is put yourselves in the shoes or lack of shoes, as it were,
Mm-hmm.
of the typical African person in Africa, and you're brought to America. Sorry, tough boat ride. I get it.
That
But
would
you-
be the worst
Yeah,
part
a
of
lot of
all
you
of it.
died on
Right.
the way, yeah.
Yeah,
But-
that'd be the worst part of it all. I mean,
But
honestly.
they bring you in, and if you just walk the line, toe the line, you got a roof, you got food, you've got beautiful weather, you got I mean,
Like slavery
you got the
wasn't
great
that
out
bad, it's not that bad.
right?
You
Like
just get whipped every now and again. It's fine.
right, and
No.
you're only getting whipped if you like really screw up bad, right?
I mean, so I don't really know what the perception there was. I mean, like, people also forget that, like, black people sold other black people to these white people. So, like, it's not even really, like, there's a lot of nuance there that's, like,
Right.
you're exactly right. It's like, I don't know what the perception of these people was. Like, I know that, like, for a lot of people, they didn't make it across that sea. You know what I mean? And I get that. And I get that a lot of people were brutalized and all that kind of stuff. But again, like, this was black people selling other. It wasn't like white people going and hiding and hunting and capturing black people. That's not actually what
like
happened.
throwing nets over him and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like I'm throwing a net and like a cartoon net.
No,
That's not what happened.
They stood at the end of the on the shores with candy, and they
Right,
lured them in with
right.
treats and ice cream.
like James Woods and Family Guy, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
a candy trail. Ooh, he's candy. That's
Well,
exactly what they
yeah.
did.
But yes, the way it happened may not have been pleasant, but I could understand that change in environment would easily be a reason for many of them to be accepting of the life that they were presented with.
Right.
Like,
right.
it would have been
true.
nice to
That's a
have
good
polls
point.
back
Yeah.
then, right? Where they go and they talk to
Yeah.
the average slave, how hard is your life? Oh, I would much rather be here doing this than what I was.
Do you know who Jesse Lee Peterson is?
Yes, I'm familiar.
Yeah. So he talks about how he grew up on a plantation
Yeah.
in the Jim Crow South, and it wasn't that bad. He talks about that shit all the time. And obviously Jim Crow South's not slavery, right? It's different. But
Right.
he talks about that. So, like, that's kind of a similar thing of what you're saying is it's like maybe the perception was not the way that what we're projecting onto history. That's possible, right? I'm not going to presume to know, but it is an interesting question. But you say that to a lot of people and they'll just get angry. Of course it was fucking horrible. It's like,
It certainly wasn't ideal.
Is
I
it-
mean, you can absolutely say
is
that.
it-
It certainly
is-
wasn't ideal.
Is it possible that the opinions of the slaves across the board was so varied in perspective
maybe, yeah.
that it was akin to the perspective of the black community today,
Right,
just as
right,
varied
right,
as the
right.
perspective of all this, right?
Right, exactly. That's a very, very strong possibility too. Like, maybe there was some people that really hated it. Maybe there was some people that are like, no, I'm cool. You know what I mean? Especially like the house Negroes or whatever, right?
Right.
Some of those people probably are like, yeah, I'm chilling. And like, I get that, like, there's the perception of like, well, that's fucked up that they would be, but dude, you compare it to the alternative, especially like, okay, if they were brought from one place to another place let's say that they perceive that place to be better, right? The place that they were brought to. Let's say that that's true. Now you have to take it to the account that, okay, so if all of this stuff goes away, all this infrastructure that I've been given goes away, then now what? Am I going to be back to where I was before I got here? Or am I going to be better off? They don't know. There's uncertainty there, right?
Right.
And that's a fact.
They might throw us all back on boats and send us home.
Exactly. Right, exactly. What do we do then?
I don't know how to deal with a rhino.
They kind of did do some of that. They kind of did do some of that. That's what Liberia is, if
Right,
I'm not
that's actually
mistaken.
true. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah. Isn't that place all fucked up?
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, exactly. So
I don't believe it's a first world
Not a happy
country, is
place.
it?
yeah. So no, but
Certainly not a
that's
first world
actually a
country,
good
no.
point. I think that, like, the fact that people nowadays, they can't even have this conversation though, right? If you say
Right.
that to, like, some random person, like random person, you're gonna be met with anger. That, like, what happened to this having a discourse? It's like, I don't know if you're correct. I don't know if I'm correct,
Right.
but I'm interested in like hearing the perspective, because that's actually something that I hadn't thought about, right? And so now I'm gonna think about that. Maybe it's time for me to do some more research. I don't know.
Well,
but like, instead of
also,
like
here's another thing,
yelling
then.
at you, you know.
And here's another thing too. I happen to know that a lot of black slaves who were freed, actually did get reparations. It's not like no one got
No,
it.
well, right, that's true.
A lot of them actually
Yeah,
did.
there was like,
oh, really?
also,
That's going to cut into your check, sir.
what's the not the housing lottery? What do they call it? I talked about this on something.
You're
There was
talking
like
about, a Homestead Act.
Homestead, right?
Yeah.
And slaves, former slaves were eligible for that. One of the Homestead Acts, because there was like
Right.
3 of them. But one of them, former slaves were eligible. All you need to do was be like a man and be over a certain age or something like that.
Yeah.
And like, it didn't matter what color you were. So that's part of that too.
Well, yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah, and
Well, I mean, like I have to know, in my hometown in Charleston, South Carolina, there are tons of like strips of land that are like 1 by 39 or 1 by 40 acres, something like that. Like just long strips of land,
mhm.
that were given out as reparations.
Mhm.
Now most of them eventually got sold off,
right.
because they knew how to farm. That was their specialty. They knew that, but they didn't know like the business side
To
of
manage it,
Right,
and kind of got screwed over, and
Right, right.
yeah.
That happened to
So
a lot
now
of
they're all
black
tree farms.
farmers.
But that happened to a lot
you
of
know?
white farmers too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But there were, if I'm not mistaken, there were actually places that like also set restrictions. Like if you had to offer your slaves freedom, and if they wanted to leave, like if they wanted to stay, you had to take them on as a hired hand. If you
No way. Interesting.
right.
Okay.
But if they wanted to leave, you had to basically give them a severance pay, like something,
Right, okay,
to-
gotcha,
walk-in money, as it were. Basically, some minor reparations, if you want to
Right,
think about it that way. If I'm not mistaken, there were some places that did policy like that. It
I'll
wasn't
look
wide,
that up at some point, yeah.
it wasn't widespread, but it was more, But there were a lot of slave owners that
Yeah.
were fine with getting, freeing their slaves, and, putting them, stay here and work. Stay here and work. Here, I'll even. You want to work? You want to work off some land? You can own land on some of my property. There were all sorts of things that went on, and
exactly,
and none of that gets talked about.
Right.
You can't talk about it.
Right.
Like if you don't portray the plantation owners as like sick sadistic assholes,
Yeah. Right.
then
Exactly.
you're done. You're extremely
Right.
racist, and you just need to shut up.
Right.
Yeah,
And,
and the worst part about it too is that they don't even talk about like even the advantages that like some slaves had after slavery, right? Because of the fact that they were the ones doing like a lot of the manual labor and things like that white people weren't doing, and so there was the ability for black people to make money off of white people after that too, because they had skills that white people had just given to black people. It's kind of a similar thing with like the way that libraries happen, right? Like librarians, right? They were giving they created this duodecimal system thinking that women weren't be able to figure it out, and then they read all the books and got really smart, and it ended up creating a completely different skilled class of people, right? This is the same kind of thing, but people don't talk about that kind of stuff either, because if you bring that up, then I'm a coon, because I understand, I have historically literate, and I don't claim to know everything, but like there's certain little things that people never ever mention.
but that
people don't know about them though. So
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
in their defense, if you're ignorant of something, but then if you don't know about it, don't talk about it. Like don't have an opinion on it.
but see there.
I guess I break that rule all the time.
Yeah, I mean we all do,
Talk shit
right?
all the time. Yeah,
But it's like if you
But don't act like
if
you
you're
know. I
willing
guess
to,
don't act like you know if you do.
well, if you're willing to be corrected, right,
Well-
then that's cool too.
Well, but see the thing that this will walk back to when you bring these things up is whites wrote the history.
Yeah, for sure.
So any of that is speculative narrative. And since we can't go back and talk face to face with people that were actually experiencing these things at the time, it is therefore not acceptable or relevant to talk about what history says might have happened.
Yeah.
Well, so hang on, because it's not just about like what history books say or what historians say, it's also there's also evidence from the time. Like it's not ancient enough to where we kind of have to speculate a lot.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
everything's written down, and most of that
Mm,
paper has survived. Unless it was
Yeah.
burned or something like that. But it's most
it's
of
all
it has
photoshopped.
survived.
That's all photoshopped.
It's all
Yeah,
Photoshop.
right. It was
Yeah.
Photoshop. It was the first version of Photoshop. Photoshop
Well, that's
0.1.
another thing is towards the end there were pictures.
Right.
There's even pictures to prove things or evidence of
Right.
things. So I mean, I think we know a lot more about especially towards the end of slavery,
Mm-hmm.
than we know about a lot of other things. So
Yeah.
I think it's hard to. Obviously, you can twist things and spin things, but I mean, all the original sources are there, or at least most
Mm-hmm.
of
So this
them.
all of this really opens up this broader picture of, as we mentioned earlier, where this cancel culture, which I think, it needs to be called out for what it is, which is just blatant censorship, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Extreme
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
censorship, right? So it's going to start hitting printed material, right? So now it can't stop there. Now we're
Nope.
going to have to go back, and we're going to have to either remake many long-standing movies,
We're already
or
doing that.
we're going to have to
Yeah.
cancel them completely, right? And or remake it and cancel the original, right? Imagine
Right. Right.
Gone with the Wind, right?
Oh
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
right, you want to talk about controversial, that might be considered controversial,
Oh yeah.
right?
I mean. Oh yeah.
Yet
Oh yeah.
Django is okay.
Well, so there. I mean, that's true. I mean, it's hypocritical, right? Obviously,
oh
there's
yeah.
there's it's suggested, like, for, if you want to be sensitive to people of color or whatever, but like anything that's like reversing it and doing it towards white people is totally fine. I mean, the thing is that they're pushing all of these things where, like we were talking about with Disney changing, like putting these things in the beginnings and stuff, but they're also changing media, like you were mentioning. I mean, they're doing it with video games too. One of the old Street Fighter games, I think they just released a compilation of Capcom fighting games, and in Street Fighter 2, in the background of one of the stages, there used to be a rising sun, like the Japan's rising sun, and they took it out because apparently that's offensive, because it was it was like their the Imperial Japanese military's symbol during World War II, and apparently that's offensive now.
That's on their flag
Yes,
right now.
it is.
Today.
Exactly.
It's on their
So
flag.
what are we going to
Now it
take
doesn't
off?
have the rays or whatever. It's just a
Yeah, it doesn't have
circle,
Wait.
the rays, it's just a
but
circle.
still,
Yeah.
Wait, does
it
that
still represents the rising sun?
does
Right,
that mean we
yeah,
got to
that's what that
cancel?
is.
Does that mean we got to cancel the
They canceled Japan.
Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes movie too?
Which one?
Rising
one's
Sun.
that? Is that what it's called?
Yes,
No
Rising
shit.
Sun, and it's set in
You
Japan.
gotta- you gotta
Oh,
cancel
isn't it set in
anime, guys,
Japan
sorry.
too?
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, yes.
Do we have to
That's right.
cancel that?
I
Yeah.
totally forgot about that. No, but so my point is there. That's like, this is why you need to. And look, everyone, I'm gonna look you right in the face. Everybody's watching this. Get physical media. Own
Yes.
physical media. Do not just let these people push these digital things on you. If you could see the desk, what I got up here, I got all types of old video games up here, because they're going to change things retroactively. They're going to push updates to your digital media. They're going to tell you that you can't watch these certain scenes, all these kind of stuff. Have the physical media, because this stuff is like ridiculous what they're doing. I couldn't believe that when I saw that. I'm like, this is like, but okay, now you're talking about, but it's okay for Django to do it. Now on this tip with the Street Fighter stuff, they still left the hammer and sickle in Zangief stage. The hammer and sickle is still there.
Right.
But they take away the rising sun.
So
does that make sense?
Real quick, back to your point about getting the physical media. I'm glad you said that, because I've been collecting DVDs. Like anytime there's like something that I remember from my childhood or something like that I want to keep, I get the DVD.
Right,
I have
right.
I have, I think, the first through the 15th season of South Park.
Nice.
Which
awesome.
includes
they'll
the
definitely get
episodes
rid of
that are now banned.
Yep.
The episodes that show Muhammad.
Yep.
It has those episodes on there.
Nice.
I have
those.
Nice. Same with the Faulty Towers.
Right.
the John Cleese
Oh yeah,
show.
yeah, because they got rid of those episodes.
They got rid of
yeah.
they got rid of the ones where he's like goose stepping.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
He had a head injury.
Yeah,
right. The character had a head injury, and he was.
It was supposed to be funny. Yeah, I've watched that.
It was really funny.
Wow.
It
was
is really funny.
That show is hilarious.
Hell yeah. Sure. I mean, it's the #1 sitcom in all of, or it was at the time, in all of Britain. It was fantastic.
I mean, there's a reason why these things were popular.
So
right, it's like.
So when is stand-up comedy going to get canceled?
Oh,
that's
already
done.
No, I mean as a whole, right.
Oh,
So we have book burnings, and then we're going to start shutting down comedy clubs, right?
So hang on, because that is the case when it comes to comedians themselves, is that they have to toe the line, otherwise they get torn down.
Yep.
And the thing is that modern comedy now, especially if you get like these lefty, comedians come up, they're not anymore like up there for laughs. They're up there for applause. Like that's why they're
well,
they're
and
not jokes anymore.
They'll still do comedy specials, right, on TV where they can edit and where they can do all that.
Right.
But you just no more stand-up comedy clubs, right? Because you can't have immediate. You can't have it visceral and immediate. What?
Well, no. What they've been doing.
No.
What they've been doing though, and this is actually really smart. What they've been doing now is they make everyone lock up their phones on the way in, so that no one records.
Oh yes. So they can't
Because they're out there, they're working stuff out. They don't have the jokes finished. It's not ready for TV.
I went to Aziz Ansari stand-up comedy special like one time, and they had us do that, and it was really funny because. Like a year later or something, I saw the stand-up. He came out with a stand-up a special, and I watched it. And I was like, "Oh, I've already seen all these jokes because I actually saw this live."
Yeah.
But I mean, it's so weird to me. Something else was on the chopping block to be canceled, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was. But part of it was because it was so violent. It imparted so much violence to this, that, and the other. And then I'm like, but hold on. Vampire Diaries and the 3 spin-off shows of the Vampire Diaries. There's some gruesomely violent stuff going on.
What's
there,
the Vampire Diaries again?
It's teen melodrama. It's like it's much like Twilight. They're all in high school, but they're exceedingly mature. Like running around like 30-year-olds because But even the ones that aren't vampires, right?
Hold on, I have to stop there because I never understood that. So you have these shows where adults are playing children and then being in like sexual situations, right? Isn't that weird? Isn't that like I don't know. Like
as long as everybody's of age, you can explore anything you want.
I get that they're actors and all that kind of stuff, but they're supposed to represent teenagers. So like,
well,
is this what my kids are doing in high school?
Let me counter real quick with: would you rather have that, or would you rather have? I forget who it is, and I don't want to say his name because that'll be one of the Nickelodeon, I guess executives.
Okay.
Have you seen this? It's like all this feet stuff throughout Nickelodeon shows back in the day. Like tons and tons of foot stuff, like iCarly foot stuff.
What he like?
There's like Amanda Bynes.
No, but hold on though.
Pictures or something?
No. Just like in the shows, like
right. But hold on a second.
It's like part of the show.
But see, there's a reason for that.
Like food stuff, like peanut butter and stuff, like on people's toes, or like foot massages on the show.
I mean,
it's really weird.
Shit. Wait, and that was in there because he liked feet or something?
Yeah, he's on. As Dan Schneider's as Ed. Yeah.
No
look at his
fucking
Twitter.
way.
Okay. It's all over his Twitter.
Now, now I'm trying to.
He's got a bunch of.
So is that why? Look at some of the.
Like other people.
If you get a chance, look up some of the older imagery of the Nickelodeon branding because they used to have feet, foot walking, right? The foot there.
Yeah.
I mean, I always interpreted all the feet stuff like on iCarly and stuff like that with that like it was their foot. It was like branding. Like it was a branding thing when you were seeing feet on the show.
I thought too. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, look at his Twitter.
No fucking way.
Yeah.
But he has a
so
creepy
he
feet
had
thing?
A feet thing.
He's got a
And
feet
so
thing.
he was putting that into. Wow, I'm gonna have to read about this.
Wow, this
Using
is like
children, actual children too.
this is
That's
do that.
fucking weird.
On
this
camera.
is this is giving me the penis castle on the Little Mermaid vibes.
Oh yeah, right.
Pretty
Or
much.
the sex in the clouds
And
with the
Lion King.
Lion King. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super weird.
No,
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that. Dan Schneider. I have to look into that and
That's
see.
crazy.
Hey, Ricey, we've been ignoring chat. We're horrible. I see
have
Ed,
totally been
Random,
ignoring
Random
chat.
8. Ron Helton just showed up over on Trovo.
Hey Rod, what's up?
But yeah, I mean, it's it's so hypocritical in the way things are being done. Like it's it's okay to establish yourself as a female version of the patriarchy, as long as you're asserting feminism. It's okay to have this violent show, but you can't have it. These people can't have it.
Yeah, right.
It's okay for you to, you got to censor anything about black people if you're a white person making it, but if you're a black person making it, you can go off the fucking deep end with racism if you want.
Right. Exactly. I could say. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned this last time we talked, but I did an experiment like this on Facebook, where I asked people if they had ever met. This is back when I was on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook anymore, but I asked people if they had ever met a genuine white supremacist in their life. A bunch of people said, yeah, all these things. And my one friend said, I've met you before. And I said, yes, I hate blacks. Ha, ha, ha. Then I asked the same question reversed. Have anybody of you ever met a black supremacist? Surprisingly, I'm sure you're not surprised that not many people answered. But my friend said, I've met you before. Same guy. So I said, yes, I hate whites. Guess what? The message that said I hate blacks got taken down within like 30 seconds of me posting it. And the one that said I hate whites was up for months.
Yeah.
No problems.
Yep.
But don't you? You didn't have your black check mark, so it was okay for you to say you hate black people.
Exactly.
I'm waiting for that on
it's
Twitter.
Funny because they didn't even take
legit...
that black check. That would be hilarious, actually.
I have legit met a black supremacist though.
Me too.
A neighbor of mine when I was a kid. I used to play with his kid.
Yeah.
But I was never allowed inside the house.
I've met a panther
inside the house.
Right. I've met those. I've met a panther.
Oh, wow.
I've met a panther. I mean, I lived in Atlanta. I mean, you want to talk? I've met black supremacists in Atlanta.
They exist.
Oh yeah.
And
I met them in San Francisco, man. There's this group called the Hebrew Israelites that used to stand on Market Street, and they probably still do stand on Market Street and yell at white people. Yep. There was a really interesting video, hilarious video of a woman who went up to them. Actually, I saw this after I moved out of San Francisco. It was hilarious. This woman walked up to them and started saying like that they were saying bad stuff or something, and they were like, "Yo, get out of here, get out of here!" And she kept coming up to them, and one of them pushed her out of the way because she kept getting in their face, and then she got arrested because she was assaulting them first. It was hilarious. I was like, yes, because like, dude, just leave them alone. They just stand there and they shout at people. Who cares?
Right.
Like, Jesus Christ. Like,
so where does is there a stop? Is there a way? Is there a way to bring this in check?
No.
I think it's. I told somebody the other day this is tantamount to stopping an avalanche.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not going to stop. I think that we're just going to keep going until we're destroyed, and we're going to have to rebuild. Whoever survives at the end of it gets to rebuild.
So I'm gonna ask this question, and I'm gonna ask it again and again and again moving forward. How important is the very First Amendment to you as an American? Freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, freedom of being who the fuck you are.
Yeah,
and speaking your mind. How much do you care about the First Amendment? Because this is the end of the First Amendment.
Oh, 100%.
This is 100% the end of the First Amendment. It's gone. It is going away, whether you like it or not, because the only step we have left is to continue to legislate it.
Right.
Because it's being demanded that it be legislated by a vocal minority.
Right. Yeah.
and not the minority that's being vocalized about.
Right. Exactly. I know that. That's the.
What? Your mic's out. We're not hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. That's the irony, right? Is that you nailed it right there. Like it's a vocal minority, and the minority is not the one that's being vocalized about, which is insane. Like that. Great way to put it.
And it's this competitive racism is going to it's going to lead to the full destruction of your Second Amendment.
Yeah.
Because of the controversial level
Absolutely.
that the competitive racism leads to.
Absolutely.
You've already lost the fourth. What's the third again? Your right to
The third is
suck it up.
You don't have to quarter soldiers during peacetime.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
Well,
hasn't really been all that relevant in the past, 200 years, 100 years. But
However,
Yeah, well, no, I think I read or heard somewhere that was actually supposed to be so that like British spies couldn't like quarter up in your house. Basically, was
Yeah.
the whole point.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like they can't like be hanging out like. But we already have that. I mean, you talking about you want spies? I mean, we already have these. We have these fucking things.
No. All we
have
have.
like an Alexa or some shit.
Yeah, exactly.
We won't quarter them, but we'll send them to school and teach them how to fly airplanes.
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh,
There you go.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I'm a horrible person. I didn't make any references to
You're
anything.
canceled,
I was just
man.
talking.
You're canceled.
I was just talking
Yep.
about flight attendants, right?
I've got to cancel you now.
They throw
Fuck,
You were
peanuts.
hella
John.
canceled.
Flight
You're
flight
so
attendants.
You're hella canceled.
Flight attendants throw pretzels too hard.
Oh man.
So yeah, I mean, I don't, it's this idea that, what it would take to make this change is not going to happen because, as I've said before, there's not enough movement there. There's not enough formulation behind the process for any kind of igloo or any of that silliness to happen. None of that will happen because it's not organized. It's not there. It's nothing.
Yeah.
This is a stronger, harder, faster move because it's got the endorsement of the majority of celebrities.
Right.
It's
The
got
media,
it's getting so much endorsement from both the left in Washington
media,
and now the right is starting to get on board.
Oh yeah, well because the right is just the left 5 years
Behind,
removed,
pretty
right?
much, yeah.
Right.
I mean, like this is like a lot of people who've been saying this. It's like, dude, what's worse, the opposition or control, or the enemy or the controlled opposition? You know what I mean? Which is like what a lot of people would say, like the right and the Republicans, man. Like honestly, dude, they're just kind of just. Oh, I guess we'll just go along with the Democrats do what they're gonna do, and it's just kind of like, well, you're useless, so fuck you too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, that's what they say. That's what they say about conservatives, right? Like, what
Right.
the hell do conservatives conserve?
progressivism.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's it. That's it.
Basically.
I mean, they couldn't even. I think it was Dave Smith that was saying this. They couldn't even conserve a potato head. The
Yo, the Mr. Potato Head thing. Yo,
Yeah,
so
they
okay,
couldn't
so
even conserve
you
that.
know what's funny about that is like realistically, I understand why they did that, and it has nothing to do with the gender politics. It has to do with the fact that you have a Mr. Potato Head and a Mrs. Potato Head, and when they look at their sales numbers, they notice that people usually just buy the Mr. Potato Head. They don't buy both.
Right.
So they said, fuck it. Why are we going to keep making two different boxes? Why don't we just put everything in one fucking box and call it Potato Head?
Yeah.
That is why they did that, is because it's a business decision that's going to save them millions of dollars on manufacturing.
And they get the virtue signal at the same time.
Exactly. It has nothing.
Yeah.
But the people who are paying attention, the conservatives who are paying attention or are outraged, which is probably like two, right?
I
Who,
didn't see
or
any.
care
I
about
saw
this.
none of them.
I saw like people making fun of it, but I'm sure
Right,
that there's
that's
like
it.
one person
Someone.
who's mad. But anyway,
Yeah.
that one person who's mad is not seeing the point of it, and also the people who are championing it are also just stupid because now they're gonna go buy a product because somebody did something that they can boast about. And it's like at
Right.
the end of the day, they don't give a crap. They're just selling you a freaking potato head.
Right.
Literally, I could make my own Mr. Potato Head if I go to the freaking grocery store, buy a potato, and draw some eyes on it.
right?
Literally.
Well, John made this point off mic. I believe you said it, John. Well, the issues you have about the Dr. Seuss books, right? Was because
Oh,
of
none of them were ones that were selling a lot. They
Oh
were not
yeah,
their
yeah,
highest
for sure,
sellers at all.
for
None
sure,
of them
yeah.
were. So they get to stop making them. They get the virtue signal,
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
and they're
yeah,
still
yeah.
making tons of money.
That's
Yeah.
actually yes, exactly. That's what people don't like think about, right? Is they don't think deeper than like what's going on the surface. What's really happening is they're using this opportunity to create
Free
generate
marketing.
revenue for themselves.
Free marketing
That's
too.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
in the
mean, like,
mainstream news now.
exactly. And people like us are just gonna be like, well, that's fucking dumb, and then move on.
right.
Yeah.
Because
You know, like,
Yeah.
you know what I kept doing all during the summer? I
was
kept
that?
wondering, why the fuck is Wendy's or McDonald's or Arby's, any of them, saying anything about Black Lives? Who
right?
gives a
Yeah,
fuck?
yeah, right.
Well, during the last summer, they thought it might protect their businesses from being burned
Yeah,
down.
Right.
they did.
Even
but
though
it
it
I'm
didn't.
like,
didn't,
you know
didn't protect them at all.
You know what?
I thought it might have.
If I'm going to eat your fucking hamburger, I don't care who you like.
Right,
I'm going to
exactly.
eat your
I
hamburger.
really don't care about.
I don't care about your politics, right?
Right, right,
Your
Yeah.
politics aren't your special sauce, cunt.
right.
I'm just
Exactly.
saying.
Like, what the fuck do I care? That's
Don't
why it
give
was
a
like all the stuff with like people get mad about Chick-fil-A. I'm like, motherfucker, it's a chicken sandwich.
Right?
It's a damn good chicken sandwich.
It's
Was-
a damn good chicken sandwich.
Right?
And-
Was
and
the
it's
chicken
like-
gay?
Right. Well, not only that, you know what's so funny about that to the Chick-fil-A stuff is that right? They hate gay people, dude. I've been to so many Chick-fil-A's that have gay people working there.
Like the gayest people.
They don't care.
Right? If I
That's
were,
not the point.
you know what?
Like-
You know what? I was waiting for the stand-up comedian that would have voiced my thought. It isn't gay people they hate. It's fucking chickens.
Right,
They hate
right. That's 'cause they're
chickens.
killing-
They're
they're killing the
killing
chickens,
those
man.
motherfuckers.
They actually they actively advocate that people eat more chicken.
Right, exactly. They
Yeah.
want their entire thing was like trying. I remember when they had
cows.
the cows. Yeah,
Yeah.
the chicken.
Species.
Yeah,
The
The
billboards,
species
like
so
they actually
funny,
have physical
dude.
cows
Those
there. It was so
species
cool.
cows.
yeah.
But here's the
Yeah.
irony. Here's the delicious irony of that. If you go to the original Chick-fil-A in Fayetteville, Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
you can sit down at their diner counter, their old soda diner counter, and order yourself up a single or double patty hamburger and have a
Oh, no
nice, juicy fucking hamburger right there at the Chick-fil-A.
No way.
And they've had it on the menu since back in the day. But they
Oh, that's crazy. I want to
Right.
go there.
Cool. Yeah,
Right.
that's awesome.
I have
That
eaten.
sounds
I've
so
eaten.
good. Oh,
I've
you just made me
eaten
really
cow at Chick-fil-A. So
That's
it's
awesome.
like whatever.
Fair
bitches.
enough, man. That's
But
good.
no, they don't hate gay people. They hate chickens, and that's what you need to take away from
they
that.
hate chicken. Yeah, it's like, dude, it's so funny because it's like I've been to so many Chick-fil-A's. It's like I've seen gay people working there. I've seen gay people go in there and eat. Like, come
Not only
on,
that, but
man.
they,
Like,
they also
it's just-
they pay their employees more than most other fast food
Yes,
restaurants
they do, and they're closed on Sundays.
and they're closed on
Why are
Sunday.
you
That's
mad
supposed to
about
be
any of this?
That
you
would
know?
be a good thing anywhere else.
Yeah,
Anywhere else,
exactly,
that would
exactly.
be a great thing, but no, not Chick-fil-A.
Exactly, but it's because they support traditional marriage.
How
Yeah.
dare
That-
you?
they hate gay
Well,
people.
it's
all
not
the
even-
How
time.
dare
even
you
they
assume those
either. It's
people
not-
are gay?
It's not
just
even they,
looking at
right?
them?
It's not even they. It's
the one
one.
dude.
It's one guy.
One dude.
You know exactly. That's actually a great point. It's like it's not even they. It's one guy.
Right.
Right.
You know.
Well, that was, they tried to cancel. I want to say one of the other first cancels I really remember that really stuck out was when they tried to do it to. What were the guys the duck hunters? Duck hunters.
Yeah.
Was that their show, the Duck Hunters?
No. God.
What were they called?
What do they call it?
Duck Dynasty.
Duck Dynasty,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Remember when they tried to cancel that, and he just kind of apologized his way
yeah.
back, bounced back
Even
from
before,
it. And-
even before that, Dog the Bounty Hunter. Before that.
Yeah. Right. Nah, dude.
Yeah,
Screw that.
it was
Apologizing sucks.
and-
Yeah,
but
don't
you know,
apologize.
but he
No
did.
way, ever
But
apologize.
in listening to, he didn't so much apologize as like, this is just the way I am, kind of thing.
Right.
But it's not the way he is. Have you ever seen pictures of those guys before Duck Dynasty?
Oh yeah.
Golf
gay as
polo
fuck,
polo
Yeah, they're
shirt
gay as
golf
fuck.
clubbers golf course.
Yeah. Right.
They were none of them had beards, nothing.
Right,
They
yeah.
just happened to come up with a duck call or some bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they were busy
Yeah,
playing golf.
Yeah.
You know,
They kind of fell into it.
right?
Yeah.
So but it's just like it's it's snowballing so fast. It's like I keep wondering what's the next thing. I see this thing on Aladdin, like we were talking about earlier with Disney. I'm like, so does that mean? Because I can promise you, one of the biggest parts of that was Robin Williams, because of all the different characters he does with his. That was his thing, right? All those different impressions, and some of them were blatantly. Like, this is your Meshuggah Jewish person.
Yeah, he did his Jack Nicholson.
And do a black person and ghetto black.
He did Arsenio Hall.
Right.
Yes.
In that,
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So so then my question is, okay, does that mean he, even though he's dead, now he's on the chopping block for cancellation?
Yep.
Right.
Well, see, I don't think it matters because he's dead.
No,
it doesn't matter.
I'm sorry.
They tried to cancel John Wayne. Remember?
Oh yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, that's right.
Sean Connery too.
How'd that work out? You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm sorry. Dr. Seuss is dead, and he's being called out as a racist. He's being called as a racist right now.
He really wasn't though, because again, it was just kind of a version. Oh yeah, that's true. Oh yeah.
Yeah, right.
Be outraged about it now.
I guess he was racist. Okay.
Well, if somebody were to draw those pictures for a political cartoon or for a children's book these days, that imagery would immediately be tapped.
I mean, look what they're doing with J.K. Rowling. I mean, luckily.
Dude,
she's too big though. She can't.
With J.K. Rowling, J.K. Rowling doesn't give a crap.
No,
she's richer than God. She doesn't give a fuck.
That's right.
She's like, oh, you're gonna cancel me? Like whatever. She's literally like, oh, you're going to cancel me? Like, how do you ever do a British accent anyway? But like. It's funny about that.
Harry Potter's a white supremacist now.
Right. The funny thing about that too is that, first of all, J.K. Rowling has said absolutely nothing wrong, literally ever. Two, so I'm gonna wrap it back to games a little bit. So they're coming out with a new Harry Potter game for PS5. Good. Yeah, my girl is really excited.
They're actually gonna finally come out with a game for the PS5?
Well, so I know, right? I know, right? Facts. So it's called like Hogwarts Legacy or something like that, and it's like an open world Harry Potter game. I remember showing it to my girl when it got announced. She's a big Harry Potter fan. Not really my thing, but we'll probably get it so she can play it. And I found out today that I think it was the lead designer or the lead dev, one of those guys, left the company that was working on the game because they were trying to come after him for working on the game, like. Because J.K. Rowling is an istophobe, right? So it's gone so far as to affect someone who has zero to do, probably agrees with them, right? Their politics.
Probably. And
has zero to do with J.K. Rowling and her opinions, but is just working on a property that, an art property that is based on an IP that J.K. Rowling created, and that person needs to step away from doing that because people are coming after him for working on it, for having a job?
Because she has a Twitter account.
Unbelievable. It's so crazy. And I think my lady did say something similar to like what I was saying before. J.K. Rowling doesn't care. She was like, as if like it matters whether or not this game comes out to J.K. Rowling.
Right.
Like really all you're doing is you're taking something away from the fans of her work.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. I don't think it's going to put a big dent in her royalty check.
He doesn't care.
Right.
Well, no, see,
he gets paid either way.
Right.
They feel so betrayed though, because like she was kind of their Jesus. Like
right. Yeah.
They can't go 10 minutes without making a Harry Potter reference, especially when talking about the right. They're like, oh, this is Voldemort over here, all this kind of stuff. They can't help but make a Harry Potter reference, and then she goes and commits the sin of maybe not being
going
quite
against
as
the
woke as
cathedral.
she's supposed to be.
You know what? The books were good. I like the books. They were good. But I'm sorry, she ain't no Tolkien. So get off your fucking high horses.
That's your thing.
See,
so that's not my thing at all. I don't like any of this fantasy stuff.
I grew up in just the right time to where I grew up with the books.
Right,
like,
for sure.
As they were getting older and more dark and like
she ain't no Tolkien
subjects, I was getting up in that same age. So
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that Full Metal Alchemist does everything that Harry Potter tries to do much better. So
yeah, see, I'm racist against anime. So
okay, for sure.
I just don't
you hate Japanese people?
No, just anime.
Just anime.
Just anime.
Well, I'm just gonna throw.
No, just anime.
I'm just gonna.
People are right. Anime sucks.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna throw this.
I'll use your sword and everything. I just don't like anime.
I'm just gonna throw this out there, as heard from the rumor mill, and I tried hard to picture it, and I really can't because it just makes me cringe. Daniel Radcliffe as the new Wolverine.
Oh no!
Right.
Wait, is that really happening?
No. I said from the rumor mill.
Oh, okay.
Right?
But what? No. Well, he's short enough, I think.
Well,
Right?
see, that's there's the primary reason right there. But I'm like, that's it.
'Cause
That's
I
all you got
remember
because that's all I
thinking,
see he's got going for him. Because I can't picture Wolverine.
Well, I remember being like weirded out that Hugh Jackman was Wolverine at first, and then he ended up kicking ass in the role for like 10 years.
He was amazing.
But-
Taller than he should have been. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. But like, I mean, even like with like Robert Pattinson's playing Batman, I remember hearing that and being like, why? And then I saw the trailer. That shit actually looks dope. I want to see that movie. I'm interested. That being said, I know DC Comics is way too woke now, so I wouldn't be surprised if they put that shit in that movie.
See, then now see with Pattinson, I can't see him without that over smoldered glitter look.
With the Twilight thing.
Yes,
Dude,
over
he's
smolder.
actually not. He's not a bad actor.
But he's got
People
it.
just
He
associate him
over
with Twilight.
Yes, but because he was so that all I can call it is the over smolder.
Yeah.
Right? It was just too much. I'm just like, dude, you're not breaking my heart. Dude, you're squeezing it. It is cringing so bad at the and she's fallen for this. But she looked like she was constantly in mourning all the time anyway. So I'm like, does she have another facial expression? I don't know.
Dude.
I don't even remember her name. What was her name?
Those movies. I think I watched half of it or something. I don't like vampires. Interview with the Vampire is enough for me.
But
I like Nosferatu from like what was it? The parodies?
Right, for sure.
The silent movie. That one was fantastic, actually. But other than that, yeah.
Oh, I do like the Castlevania anime on Netflix. That thing's pretty cool. But that's only because it's related to a game. Yeah.
No.
So I just keep going in my head, and I'm like, there's how much I have to ask myself, how much does it affect me in my daily life?
Right.
So because I have to ask the questions about, can I make my peace with the inevitable? Right? I think that's the path that a lot of people are on right now. Is, can I make my peace with the inevitable? Like how much of this can I stomach? But then I also have to balance in, what the fuck can I do about that I cannot stomach? Except sit here and talk about it and try and vocalize it, but that's going to get canceled eventually anyway, as this inevitably keeps going.
Man, I honestly, I think that we should just accelerate, get through it. Get through it, get to the crumble, and then start over. I mean, like,
I feel it.
I'm setting myself up. That's what I'm doing. I'm setting myself up so that I can survive that, and like, we're just going to see it. People are just going to eat each other and do whatever they're going to do. I'm just chilling.
But see, I would point this out. If you think about the time span that something like this, the build up to it, and then the emergence of it, I mean, we could be talking, this is the kind of scenario we could be looking at as it builds to a bigger climax and then sets in 50, 75 years that you could be experiencing this cancel culture reshaping your society without a crumble. Without a crumble, because they will find some way to keep shoring up the foundation with Band-Aids and keep everything afloat, much like Venice on rocky pillars or shaky pillars, on the open water. So this could very much be the rest of our lives that we're dealing with this level of authoritarianship.
I don't know.
Forward.
I don't know. I think that so. I was listening to a podcast last night. They were talking about how all these things usually come in waves, and that this disaster period, this crisis period, has been happening for quite some time. and that we're nearing the end of that cycle, and that supposedly say like look to like 2028 is going to be near the end of that, and that the people who were born in the crisis period, like the millennials, like me and John, right? We are like, they call them, like, I don't remember exactly why they call them this. They call people who were born during a crisis period artists, and then they call the people, oh god, I can't remember the name of the people that were after it. I think it was like champions or something, the people who were born after. And so like we're coming, the idea here is that we're coming to the end of like a 40-year or whatever, I think a 40-50-year cycle, which is going to be the, you know, it's going to be like the blossom period after that. But in order to get there, it's going to get bloody and people are going to die and there's going to be like problems. And so we're kind of getting through that part now. We're seeing, you know, a bunch of people dying from a disease and a bunch of people, you know, getting bombed over, and maybe we might be at war with Russia. I don't know, that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to be the rest of our lives. I'm not that worried about it. Well, I think that as long as we keep our heads up and keep doing our thing and talking about stuff as long as we can, you know, we might have a chance.
Well, I'm cynical enough to assert that you might be forgetting the day and age that we're in from a technological standpoint. The ability to keep spinning out crisis after crisis
that's true.
to sustain the crisis period until the establishment can set up enough of a foundation and walls and boundaries and barriers that we can leave the crisis period because we now have the population contained.
Right.
And we are at a technological level to do that now.
That's a good point, yeah.
So this is I worry that we're at the point in time because I've heard talk about the cyclical nature of our society and societies as a whole, but we're at a point now where we can break that cycle. Those in power can break that cycle and respin it and reshape it.
It's the fourth generational warfare stuff where it's like informational war, right?
Right.
Where you're like pushing out information to keep people like further and further away from the truth. Yeah.
I mean, literally 95% of the media that we absorb in the present day is propaganda.
Yeah, facts.
Oh yeah.
But no one understands that. They don't see it as propaganda. And it is, whether it's television, movies.
So this is what I was telling. I had a friend who we were talking about flying cars, right? He was saying like, well, why don't we have flying cars? Da, 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 da. And I said, you know, I was saying that I think that flying cars don't actually make sense because all you're doing is you're displacing the problem. You're moving the problem from the ground to the air. You'd eventually, I mean, if you have flying cars, you're going to need flying roads. You're going to need like
lanes, right?
Yeah, for them to follow. So you're not really changing anything.
Right. The Jetsons was a fantasy. I'm just saying.
Exactly. So
even they had roads and stuff, right? They had
exactly. They did.
But they drove. Yeah. They made they just did lanes. They knew to drive in lanes.
That's true. So what I was saying was that wouldn't need to be set up anyway. And his whole thing was like, well, no, we're absolutely going to have that because the rich are going to want to be able to use it and all that kind of stuff. And he said, well, the thing about that is that every technology trickles down eventually, right? Like every technology is initially used for the rich. And then eventually it trickles down and trickles down and trickles down. And people are able to, like, as soon as something gets released, somebody is going to be able to reverse engineer it, make it cheaper, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so, well, what, you don't agree?
Well, I also think it's kind of a bad way to frame it by saying that, like, you know, it's for the rich. Like, you know, something is because it's not just for the rich. It's just that it's so expensive to produce that only the rich can afford it. Until, like you said, that you know, that someone can reverse engineer it and make it cheaper. Well, and the plebs like us can afford it.
I hate to say it, but I often see movies and I wonder if they're prophetic. So there was a movie not too long ago with Matt Damon, and all the elite Elysium, right? Where were all the elite? On a planet up in the atmosphere, right?
Everybody else was on Earth, right?
Right, they're up in the atmosphere, so you had to get up to the elite, right? I mean, think about it.
That's
like
what that was my friend's argument.
And technology is at the point to do that as well. I mean, we're at the technological level now. They can stop the trickle down, Right.
But I was thinking that it would be much easier for them to just get everybody off the roads by telling everybody to stay home forever. I mean, look what's happening.
Right.
And then just like basically have everything clear for them to run around instead of displacing it. My point is that I don't think that I was thinking that there was easier ways to do all of those things. Right. And so like, you're not really creating, you know, what you actually want to look for is the indicator that they're trying to take you out of the equation by, like, you know, keeping you home. And that's my point to that was what you're saying about propaganda. He sends me all these articles about flying cars and how they have the tech and how they're working on all these problems and stuff. I was like, this is propaganda to get you to forget that they're keeping you inside of your fucking house so they can run around and do all the things that they're doing. Mm-hmm. Because now you're looking at the future. Oh, we're going to have these flying cars without, like, thinking through, like, whether or not that actually makes, like, look, I don't doubt that people want to figure out how to do that, but I do think that these conversations, if I can come up with these questions and say, look, what's the point of just displacing traffic? It's not like these people aren't having these conversations who are way smarter than me, supposedly, right? So what's to stop them from putting out articles to keep you thinking that these things are coming that aren't coming, right? In order to keep you away from what it is that they, you know, the truth. That they don't want you to see. That's my point.
Well, and you know, this is, you know, that assertion goes, you know, in a different way, goes to all of this new resurgence of UFO information, right? Where the military is actually confirming, yes, we don't know what that was. They're actually allowing naval footage to be released, and it all seems to be coinciding with the fact that sometime this summer, they're supposed to divulge everything from Project Blue Book and everything that they have. Right. And there's a lot of supposition that they're going to present us with our next crisis, which is the potential alien invasion.
That would be so cool. At least it would be entertaining. This virus is not entertaining. I mean, the alien thing would be fucking cool.
And they have been working on and creating the vehicles by which to make this new crisis happen, thus sustaining the crisis momentum.
You're right.
And to really keep a tight control on you for your own safety, because trust me, it's quite possible that a year from now, we could step outside our house for a moment and see some weird object fly over that is, we believe that might have been a scout ship.
Yeah, right.
I would absolutely shit myself. That would be amazing.
Tell me
that. I very much look forward to it.
Tell me we're not at that point, right?
I mean,
why is the government so suddenly they're just like, oh, hey, we saw it too.
Yeah, right.
Remember weather balloons? Remember those?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, totally.
Weather balloons, was it like gas leaks or something like that?
Right.
Natural gas explosion, you know, stuff like that. Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
I ask you again, what do you do to make your peace with the inevitable? That this could perpetuate for decades of your future.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I'm looking at that myself. I'm like, I'm hoping I've got 20, 30, 40 more years left, but I'm like, ooh, Lord, what's the landscape going to look like? Because when I was a kid, I was like, oh, cool. It would be so cool to have those Star Trek doors. And it would be so cool to have those food replicators. Well, we've kind of almost got that now. We've got sliding doors, but they don't make the cool sound they're supposed to. I'm just saying. But, you know... Now I'm not hoping that. I'm not like sitting around going, oh, I sure hope I get a chance to fly to the moon. I'm like, what the fuck are they going to do if they get on the moon? You know, I mean, they're going to set up the pinpoint laser. So, you know, it's like, you're marked for death. As soon as the Earth rotates 3 more hours, you will be executed in your home by laser.
So you're facing the moon. Yeah.
Right? Oh, you can run, but we've already got you tracked. We're watching you on camera. The laser can find you.
Oh man! Yeah. Well, now
it's calling you out.
Now I just changed my entire worldview. So thanks. I'm gonna go kill myself after this.
If you're not, and ultimately that's all I really want people to do, is to question the reality of your reality. You know, I mean, whether you're on the far right or the far left, this reality that you're trying to create, have you thought about what that means?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yep. Hey, man, you're getting me. You're getting me thinking about some stuff right now, for sure. Yeah.
If you want to cancel culture, I think that the Orville. If you haven't watched it, I recommend watching.
Oh, the show. Yeah.
Did you watch it?
I watched like the first the first season, I think.
Right. So you saw the episode, The Planet with True Democracy?
Yeah.
That's your cancel culture. That's where cancel culture is going to go.
Yep.
If we're not careful. I can honestly see it. Once again, prophetic.
The far left pushes true democracy already.
Well, yeah, that's what they want, right?
Absolute majority rule. That's what they.
Yeah. That's what they want. Yeah. That's what they want.
They don't realize how tyrannical it is because they assume most people agree with them.
What if?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
What if so much of our movies and television are actually trying to help you prepare for these possible things that they know are coming, so, that they know are coming because the elite know whatever it is. Yeah. Right.
That's a common thing that people who believe in and follow like the Illuminati and stuff.
Yeah.
They do a lot of that,
Yeah, it's preparing you. Yeah.
But I think it's more likely that like society or culture, at least culturally, are pushed by these films and
I think it's a give and take.
Yeah, it's pushed that way.
I mean, no one would have thought to make a lightsaber, right, until Star Wars came out, and then now there's a YouTube channel where they made like a legit real lightsaber that like cuts through most things.
But on the flip side, his ideas for the lightsaber were rooted in laser technology that was being worked on real world. Right? Like there was a give and take there. There was one hand washes the other, right?
Sure.
And I think that happens with culture, the same way.
I agree.
There's prophetic things there, both in what you could imagine this is going to happen because people are trying to make it happen like they saw, or others are like, dude, this is coming. This is coming. We can see the writing on the wall. Mm-hmm. Can you? Yeah. And that's what people need to start asking themselves. Do you truly see the writing on the wall? Do you understand the scenario that you're laying out through your hypocrisy, through your competitiveness, through your equalization? You have no idea. Big Brother was minuscule compared to what you are fucking creating.
Right.
And what you're about to subject your children to as they grow into the New World Order. So, think about that if you're planning on having kids.
Oh, definitely. Something I think about a lot.
Yeah. Right.
The collective mindset is, we're gonna maybe we're the Borg.
Yeah, right.
The Borg in infancy.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, that's like you know about that, right, John? Where it's like basically it started as like this AI thing. And they they started they basically consumed each other, and then now it's just like a hive mind. Like we are bored.
Like, resistance is futile. You will be assimilated.
Right. You will be assimilated. You and your technology will be assimilated. Right. Yeah.
So for in this infancy stage, instead of assimilated, just insert canceled.
Right. Exactly. Well, it's like totally. Yeah. I mean, because if you don't accept what is given to you, the opinions that are supposed to be given to you, then you'll be destroyed.
Right.
And if you do, then you're just assimilated into this hive mind, and you don't have any other thought.
Right, just homogenizing.
But
thoughts.
But let's keep you focused on other things like how much money are you going to get in your next stimulus check, and how much voter fraud was there, and how much of this is happening, and who's getting the vaccine and who's not getting the vaccine, and all of this.
Or even what they're doing now. The whole thing is about. They're still talking about Trump, even though he's
he's been gone for a while,
and Republicans, so that they can distract from what Biden is doing.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I wonder how many places.
Or what he's not doing.
I wonder how many places he's bombed that we don't know about.
We all know that Kamala Harris is making those calls.
Yeah, probably.
Because apparently she's taking calls with foreign diplomats because Biden can't stay up for certain time zones.
I mean, it makes sense. He's old, man.
Yeah.
He's 4 p.m. He's out.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. Right. Exactly. You got a
I
little
mean,
focus.
so I'll put this question out to you. With all of that in mind, does it not make the idea of just getting the fuck somewhere secluded, away from everything,
Yeah.
as far removed from it as you can be, to where you don't have to worry about offending somebody with
Right,
what you said
exactly.
because you rarely, if ever, see anybody,
Right. Exactly.
right?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
While you
That's
still
kind of, That's
can.
kind of what I'm doing right now. To be completely honest with you, like I have a couple of people that I hang out with, occasionally, but like, I'm inside, doing my thing, learning my skills. I talk to people like you guys, like through the internet and stuff like that. Like,
Mhm.
it's that's kind of really what I think COVID. The thing that happened with COVID is it kind of conditioned a lot of people to just kind of like keep to themselves a little bit. So we might have an influx of people who are realizing that maybe I don't need to be in this freaking city, and maybe I don't need to be doing, because it's like I've been doing this thing isolated anyway. Why don't I just go hang out with a loved one and go buy a plot of land somewhere and just say fuck it?
Well,
Totally.
but but you have to understand, right? It's going to require that you do something else. Stop reducing
Right,
your
exactly. That's true.
stop reducing your carbon footprint. Start reducing your digital footprint.
Right. Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
You got to get out of that. That's worse than dealing with people face to face these days, right? That's the most dangerous place to be, especially if you're trying to have any kind of, optics, visual presence,
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
to the world around you. Oh, you're at risk.
Yeah, I mean I stopped. I like got off Facebook and Twitter because of that. I mean, but like now it's like even when we got the new podcast, it's like people are coming after us. You know what I mean? It's like,
Well, no digital platform is going to be safe, right?
Yeah,
It's going to be one. Watch. You'll know how pervasive and how dangerous it really is when it really starts destroying something like 4chan.
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
4chan's funny. It's like I was talking to my friend. I feel like 4chan kind of just got built and like they walked away from it, right? Like nobody like maintains that site. I think.
right. Well, that's why they're called the final boss of the internet. If
Right,
they go
yeah,
down,
yeah.
we're all fucked. There's nothing that can stop them.
Yeah,
Or
that's
takes
true.
them down. I mean, that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can handle that amount of autism, like
Yeah,
like,
right.
concentrated autism,
Right.
you're
Exactly.
some kind of internet god. I don't know.
But the day
I
you
think that's
hear
it. You
the
win.
day
You
you
win.
hear something about 4chan being censored, regulated, anything, when that
Yeah.
moment happens,
That's it.
that's
It's
the
over.
final nail right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Because like you said, that's the last bastion. If we're thinking in a digital realm, right?
Right.
Because of the size and scope of it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's all sorts of small stuff, but those are easy to squash once you
Yeah.
take out the big one.
Yeah.
But when that
Exactly.
happens, so watch for it. Watch for it. I'll give it. I'll make my Nostradamus 2 years. I figure by the next election, something drastic, major will have happened with 4chan.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll have gotten to that point where they're able
Wow.
to just target like
Woo.
the largest last bastion.
I mean,
Watch.
for
Not
now,
looking
they're
forward
useful.
to that.
They're
Yeah, that's
useful
true.
for now because like they get to be
Sure.
like, oh, here's where all the scum and villainy comes
Yeah.
from on the
Right.
internet.
Yeah, they
you
can be
know?
pointed to.
Right. So I think they're safe for now. I'm not sure
Sure.
in 2 years.
The enemy of my
Maybe,
enemy
though,
is
who
my
knows?
the enemy of my enemy is my friend until my enemy is dead. Right? And then once it's just the two of us, well, you're next.
But the
Yeah,
problem is
exactly.
the far left requires an enemy at all times. I mean, they need for their ideology to function.
Not-
They need an oppressor in order
Yeah,
to be
that's true.
oppressed.
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
once they have the controls, then it won't be about enemies.
They can
It'll
use
be about victims. Once
Right,
they
right,
have the
right.
regulations coming, where they have Washington in lockstep with them, and they're limiting this and they're regulating that.
Such as militarily occupying
Sure.
DC. Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
like
Right.
right they're
That sort of
doing right
deal?
now.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now they don't have an enemy. They have villains of the state, right? These are villains
Yeah.
now, villains
Mm-hmm.
of the state, and that's what they're going after. Now they're the good guys, hunting down the bad guys and shutting them down. Not that that'll ever happen, because I think we're in a utopia right now. None of this is conspiracy theory. None of this is I don't believe any of this. These are all just rumors I've heard, things I've seen regurgitated in various
Talking
ways.
about a video game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. We're doing this in a video game, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I love these wildly speculative conversations about things that none of us actually think, right?
Right. I feel like we know what we're talking about. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
God is great. God is good.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's so funny, dude.
All right. So let's go ahead and, now that we've had our fun, and I have to say, Mr. Behavior, I'm so glad that you came on tonight, because
Wow.
Thanks for having me.
while I know that you have a very open and broad mind, you definitely add a, God, I just got to say it, you add a black perspective.
Oh yeah.
That is, you bring something to the table that is, because I applaud any one of a let's call it a discriminated race that is, for want of a better term, woke enough to understand the reality of the reality.
Yeah, right. For sure.
Not caught up in the brainwash of the Matrix, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Well, I mean, it took me a really long time to get unplugged. I mean, if you had met me 4 years ago, you'd be like, "Oh God."
We'd be like, "Oh, look, we just met a Black Panther."
Right. Exactly, right. Yeah.
So, Mr. Behavior, if you would like, why don't you tell us, you got anything coming up? What's going on with you in the near future?
Yeah, so Antioche podcast every week, every Sunday comes up on you can just type in Antioche podcast. We just passed 100 or so subs, so we're going to be doing the sweet custom link pretty soon. Let's see. Other than that, man, I'm really just heads down. I'm working on a demo for a game. I started working on a run and gun shooter type game. So that's actually why I purchased this guy right here, is because this is a huge influence. Just working on games, doing the Antioche podcast, probably getting canceled by the fighting game community pretty soon. So look forward to that.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Right. Will you walk us through how that felt?
I can never get enough attention to get us canceled. We've never been suspended on Twitter or anything. I'm just not edgy enough. I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm wondering if there were things said in this episode that we may not see, and we might get a little tap. Know. It's like Maybe. I don't think I should have had a disclaimer up the whole time. I don't know. Right.
The thing is, it's too with me and also my coworker, he's Puerto Rican, so we're not the right color to be saying the things that we're saying, right? Okay. If we were white and just saying what we're saying, people would just pretty much just kind of write us off. But the fact that we're who we are and saying what we're saying, people are upset that we're not in lockstep with their narrative.
However,
that's where we're getting.
But that's
because they know what's good for you better than you do,
exactly,
and you need to listen to them. Otherwise, you're just going to continue being oppressed.
Right. Exactly.
But the upside is he's black. So he still gets to say his piece, which means that I don't have to have a disclaimer up. Having on is our disclaimer.
There you go. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Nothing I said offended the black person on screen, so apparently it's not offensive to black people. It's not offensive
to anyone,
right? Because he's representative of the black community.
Oh my God.
That is so ridiculous. I represent all black people. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely, and that's what's important, is that you do that. Don't smile so much; it's too white.
I know. I was looking at my face. I'm like, man, I got some really white teeth. I'm doing a good job.
Congrats. Yeah.
Well, sir, your race seems to have very white teeth. I'm not sure if it's because of the front drop. Or
I don't know if it's like a contrast.
Yeah. I wonder if it's the contrast sometimes, but no, surely not. But no. Anyway, John, these people can find us places outside of this little box, right? Where can they do that?
That's true. In the description, we have all kinds of stuff. We have all of our links. We've got our Twitter at the GenGapP. We got our Discord server, which is a lot of fun. So if you're not in there, make sure you go get in there. Lots of cool people, lots of cool conversations. If you're looking for the Freedom Scoop guys, we're over on Gilded. So we have a Gilded server as well. I believe the link is in the description for that. So yeah, make sure you go and check that out as well. We got a subscribe star. So if you like us and you want to give us some money, that's a good place to do it. You also get some perks for doing it, which is really nice. You're not just giving us money for nothing. But we also don't give chicks for free. So there's that. And yeah, that's it. We don't have freedomscoop.com anymore yet for now. Right?
At the moment, it is not currently
It's not okay.
available. That is correct.
Okay, so then
Nope.
make sure you hit that like and subscribe button as well. Then
No ice cream for now, just us sprinkles.
that's right.
And Ron Helton says we should have a stream to teach people, teach us how to use teach them how to properly use Discord because his notices come a day or two after an event. Sir, that's your wireless carrier because when John uses Twitter, like for some reason mine, I wasn't getting the notifications for that till the following morning when he would announce on Twitter for the show. Then I'm like,
annoying.
what the hell? Right?
Yeah.
It's like we pick and choose, right?
Yeah,
Is there some sort of censorship going on there? You want to make sure and check all the tweets before they go out to people. What's going on?
So weird.
Really
But no,
weird.
we have not switched strictly to Gilded yet. In fact, I'm still working on the learning curve with Gilded as far as getting us set up with a full blown server situation over there. So that's how that goes. But we are going to get the hell out of here. Thanks, Ron Helton, and all the rest of you that joined us in the chat tonight. Sorry we didn't talk as much with you in the chat, but there was a black person here.
If you start talking to the chat, I'd be like, "What are you not talking to me? I'm the black guy."
Right.
And then we're excluding the black guy.
Right. We thought it was smarter to marginalize the chat than to marginalize our guest this evening.
So that way you won't get canceled.
Right. Understand. It was
right.
it was the right thing to do. But we're going to get the hell out of here. We'll be back again on Monday night. We do our Fill in the Gap show, try and bring a little humor to you at the start of your week in these challenging times. That'll be at 9:30 p.m. Then we'll be back on Wednesday, of course, at 9:30 p.m. again for our another rousing episode of Shooting the Shit. And then once again, a week from now at 8:30 p.m. Next Friday for our regular episode. All of those times are the Eastern time zone, not to be confused with the rest of you who are posers. You know who you are, sir.
I'm in the past.
Right? It's so weird. Time travel is real.
Yeah.
All right. Again, Mr. Behavior, thank you so very much for coming on here. I love talking to you. I think it's a thrill and an excitement. Good luck with your game and all the fun that you're having, and
Thank you.
and your continued isolation. Make the most of it, I always say.
Absolutely.
John, thanks for stopping by. We're going to get the hell out of here. Everyone, have a good night and peace out.
See you guys.
The war will begin.